Hey there guys, Demo73 here, bringing you the one of the deck profiles for the day. This is the Void and Moon Servant OTK list. It is a green, black, blue, red, reflect kind of control list. I made a couple of changes to the list because of being in the post errata, but aside from that, it's inspired by and pretty close to the list created by Void and Moon. Which is a really powerful, really fun list. This is just to help make up for the fact that now Reflect can only activate on your turn. So let's dig into that. So Reflect, now with the errata, you can activate her, the effect to draw a card, pump something, or untap something only during your turn. And so you are getting counters half as fast. And then you can Judgment for 0, which with no extra requirements. And then she flips over to Refrain, the child of Convergence. So you can tap her and remove 2 counters to bounce a Resonator. You can tap her and remove X counters from her to cancel target's normal spell with total cost X. And you can tap her and remove 4 counters from her to search. Primarily, you're going to use her to search for those last combo pieces, and when you get into a situation where you have just a lot of counters, you're going to be able to pump and tap something, but that's primarily if you have a lot of orbs backing you up. If you don't have a lot of orbs, you're going to probably save them for searching for things that you need. And then the whole point is to get a lot of counters on this so that you can do the OTK with Servant of Reflect, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. So stone lineup, we run 4 Rulers Memoria. The deck does run quite a few Memoria, so it is easy enough to hit for this often. And being able to have access to all 5 colors is pretty important for especially the red, because we run Flings of Outer World. And just having a stone that for no cost to us, we can hit all those 5 colors, just makes a control deck run much smoother. The primary colors for this list are black and green, so we back up the Ruler's Memoria with 4 Black Silence. And then we run Dark Depths because we also have a little bit of blue in there, but primarily black, and then a Moonshade to round it up just to make sure that we have another stone. 5 stones total that can get us all 5 colors. Moving into the Resonator lineup, so we have 3 Servant of Reflect. It's 1-drop 2/2, but it gains 100 attack, 100 defense for every 2 counters on your J Ruler. And you can remove a counter from your J Ruler to bounce this back to your hand at instant speed. So you can protect it by just removing a counter and putting it back in your hand. That's the primary big component of the OTK, and we'll talk about that after right at the end. So this guy can get really small at first. He's really small at first, but he can get really huge. I mean, if you have 10 counters on there, suddenly he's a 1-drop 7/7. So that's pretty powerful. Then we have the new addition to the list is 3 Familiars of Refrain. Essentially, this card negates the errata in terms of the speed in which you can gain counters. Because this card says if a magic counter would be put on your J/Ruler, put that many +1 instead. So now if this lands on the field, every single time you do Reflect's effect, you're actually getting 2 counters. Every single time you tap an orb, you're getting 2 counters. If you have multiple on the field, every time you do the effect, you get 3 counters. So you actually can speed ahead. And the thing is, when you're constantly laying down other threats, sometimes your opponent really isn't going to pay attention to this, and if your opponent just doesn't have answers for it, and you time yourself well in terms of when you use the effects and reactionary and play really smooth, you can keep these things on board for a really long time and get way high encounters, especially in the mirror. If your opponent's not playing Familiar, you can just win just by having way more counters than them way faster. 3 Hera, the Goddess of Jealousy. This is just for removal hate as well as additional draw power and to have another body to put on field. Most of the bodies in this deck are just 5/5s, just to be able to poke in damage and chip as needed. Yes, they are Thunder Bait, but I mean, if I have so many things that are Thunder Bait, eventually they'll run out of Thunders, in the sense. Hera is still very powerful, being able to freely pop an addition, pop a Regalia and help me draw a card to draw into the things that I need, and serve as a body on board is very good. 4 Dark Faria, Shadow Princess of Ebony. This card, honestly, I underrated it until I started playing this list. It's a 2-drop 5/5, 2 black. but you can awaken it for 4 black to just instantly kill something. So it's also like a mini Carmilla, but it also has lifelink, which is huge. So every single time it does damage to a Resonator or to your opponent, you gain that much life. This includes if it blocks. The other thing is 2 other Shadow Resonators gain plus 200, plus 200. So if you have 2 of these on board, they're both 7/7s. That means every single time they attack or block, you're gaining 700 life. That's nothing to shake a stick at. Like, that's a lot of life gain, especially when you're playing a control list and you want to, reestablish. So really, really powerful card, good for spot removal, but also good for pressure early game if you need it. So then to round up, we have the 4 Fiethsings. This is again a very control-y kind of card. Helps us filter into the will that we need because she can tap to produce will of any attribute, and she can flash in, quick cast, and negate damage from something. So really, really good progression in terms of stopping damage, putting a body on board, and being able to produce will. Very, very, very good card for a control list. And then Pumpkin Witch. Pumpkin Witch is the whole reason why there is the OTK, because what happens is she creates a cloud effect when she enters the field that until the end of the turn, all Resonators you control gain it flying and swiftness. And so because of the way that cloud effects work in Force of Will, even things that come into play after her get flying and swiftness. So the OTK is essentially this. You have a ton of counters on Reflect, lots of counters on Reflect. You have a Servant, preferably already on board, that is pumped up. Play Pumpkin Witch. Now this guy has swiftness and flying. Swing in, remove a counter, bring it back to your hand, pay a green will, play him again. He has swiftness and flying. Swing in, remove a counter, back to your hand, play a green will, swing in, and you just repeat with Servant until your opponent is just dead, because Servant is really, really huge and cheap to keep playing over and over and over again. And it's free to bounce back to your hand just by removing and slowly getting a little bit weaker over time, so you can finish your opponent off that way. Typically, when combined with having a couple other 5 drops on the board, when you play Pumpkin Witch, you typically win. Moving into Regalia, it is a Reflect deck and a control Reflect deck, so definitely needs the orbs. Change the world, Orb Evolution. Tap to add a counter to your J Ruler. Tap and remove a counter to untap your J Ruler, and tap and remove. Pay a green and remove 2 counters to draw a card. So pretty good to help the control list speed along. 2 Laevateins, just to be able to, if needed, especially if you're going for the OTK that turn, be able to cancel a spell that turn that would affect it. So you can like flip over and have swiftness ready to be able to cancel if needed, or bounce something if needed, or search for that last combo piece to finish off the game. Pretty handy. And then 1 Horn, we typically try to search for it if we need it, if we're playing against a control deck, or if we're playing against a Resard deck like you saw, or if we're playing against a control mirror. This card is amazing because if you can get it to stick and you guys are playing really long, you can shuffle your own deck, graveyard back into your deck, and keep going and keep using all those resources over and over again. And then 1 Deathscythe, just to be able to shut down J Rulers if needed, to be able to say, no, you don't have swiftness, no, you don't have imperishable. Spell lineup. Early spot removal, we just run a couple of unseen pressures. I just pop something that has 400 or less attack. I could be running Thunders, but the deck doesn't have as much options to get Thunders off the bat guaranteed, and unseen pressure typically kills any 1-drop anyway. 4 Scorn of Dark Alice. This is really important for being able to see your opponent's hands, and pop, get a creature out of it really fast, unless you unfortunately hit a behemoth turn 1 like I did. But being able to disrupt your opponent's flow while also at the same time knowing what your opponent's hand is so you can plan out the rest of your turns accordingly is super, super powerful. 3 Spiral of Despairs to continue to put your opponent in that kind of top deck mode. 3 Flames of the Outer World for J Ruler hate, as well as just uncounterable, unanswerable burn damage to a Resonator or something that's a threat on the board. And then 2 Stoning to Death to be able to kill the things that maybe you can't burn to death with flames. So there you have it. That is the list. Huge thanks to Void & Moon for shipping me the list and allowing me to play around with it for making the new version post-errata. Go ahead and check them out. The website's down below in the description. Let me know what you thought of the list, what changes you would make, what you would do differently, what you think of the list just in general, about how powerful you think it is or how weak you think it is. And go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, this is DMO73 signing off.